Welcome to the pre-Gameweek 5 video, and in this video I'll be also discussing all the transfers that have been completed from the last, obviously, summer transfer window, and I think that's the first place to start with. So in terms of Arsenal, obviously the only signing they made was Peter Cech, and in terms of fantasy, definitely a player worth considering, even though he is, at the top end in terms of being one of the most expensive goalkeepers in the game. He has been collecting some decent points, notably home to Liverpool, where he also got free bonuses. So, I generally look at if a player's getting bonus points for a particular game week when they've done a good performance, it's likely throughout the season, if they do deliver another good performance, and obviously considering the number of saves he made, there's a chance he'll be allocated some bonus points. You just have to look at Krul, for instance. He made 9 saves. Yeah, he conceded, but he didn't even get one bonus point. So, taking things in perspective, Peter Cech is definitely someone to consider. In terms of Villa, obviously, in terms of the signings that I recommended from before, I did say Amavi is someone worth considering. People have been a bit critical of him because of his mistake in the Palace game, but offensively, he's very good when it comes to defenders. He has that threat, and to be honest, bonus-wise, he's been collecting a few bonus points here and there. So it suggests, the EA Sports him today. It's like an engine which allocates the bonus points. Amavi is definitely favoured. Richards, because of his price bracket, similarly worth considering. Yeah, I know Lescott has recently joined, but with 4.9, I think you're better off getting some other defenders, like Richards, for instance, or even a Marvy for the 0.1 more. And they've obviously bought Lolori from Liverpool, and that's on loan. I think he's going to be mainly a reserve player, just in case someone gets injured. In terms of midfield, obviously I've gone through quite a lot of these players in terms of who they bought. Gueye, Rotu, obviously I think he got an assist the last game. So, and obviously people have forgotten Carl's Gill. The guy actually did very well for Villa second half of the season. Last season, and for whatever reason hasn't really kind of consistently performed to that level, maybe because of injuries. And let's not forget, managers came in and out. But Sherwood, obviously, he does want. I think he knows his first team, and unfortunately, Gill is not in that. So, but with a lot of players potentially with Knox and injured, and Traore apparently with an injury as well, definitely someone to look out for. But there's not someone here I would particularly shout at and say, look, this is a new signing, get him for Villa. Obviously, Sinclair can be considered as a new signing, and he's somebody I have in my team as well, who I think is still worth considering because he does take penalties, and looking at his price, it's quite cheap, especially now. He's probably the cheapest he probably will ever be. And so yeah, he's a player worth considering. In terms of strikers, I mean, they've obviously bought Jordan Ayew and they've bought Gested, but I don't think these two strikers at the moment is worth the punt, and it will be high risk to consider any of these two. Gested started the last game, and of course he does have the aerial threat, but right now, not someone I'm not particularly keen about gambling on Villa strikers. And in terms of Bournemouth, obviously bad news for them in terms of Mings being injured, and Grado, of course, that's a big blow for Bournemouth. And I'm pretty sure they would have maybe even taken a defeat to Leicester at home. But had they had Mings and Grado both fully fit, it would have been great for them because Grado has been providing assists this season. And Mings, for someone, if you watched him in the Championship, he is offensively minded. He can score goals, and he's a pretty good young defender. So, obviously someone they've invested in, paid a lot of money for, and it's backfired for this season. In terms of players, the new recruitments and everything, Tomlin is somebody, if you looked at him Middlesbrough days, he does get goals. But for me, the standout one, which is also a bit of a risk, but one worth looking at, is now Atsu doesn't seem to ever get opportunities wherever he plays. He goes on loan to Everton, doesn't play, goes to Chelsea, he's not playing, and now he's here. It doesn't look like he'll be much involved again. Hopefully he does, because he's shown himself to be a very good player for Ghana. But Glenn Murray from Crystal Palace, this is one player worth considering. Did get some decent points last season for a brief time, and if he can maybe consistently do that throughout the entire season for Bournemouth, definitely a player worth considering. Personally, I wouldn't, because I'm just not a fan of getting strikers um, that haven't shown certain form when it comes to like a team like Bournemouth, in my opinion. Because there's no doubt, looking at the squad of Bournemouth right now and how they performed during the season, I think so far, I just think they will be involved in a relegation battle, and these teams tend to have a problem when it comes to scoring a lot of goals freely. In terms of the next one, that's Chelsea, the champions, and Begovic, surprisingly, is someone worth considering with Courtois' knee injury at £5 million. If we're looking for a good keeper in the sense of a big team, he's definitely worth considering. In terms of the new defensive recruitments with Baba Rahman and Gigi Bocci, I don't see these two being much involved. Although Mourinho has warned of implementing changes due to his defense's poor performances in the last few games. So it wouldn't surprise me, but I think Mourinho will give one more chance at least for his players to at least show some, desire. And I think that was missing against Palace. Maybe they think they're champions, they can just walk on the pitch. In fact, that's the opposite, because it galvanizes the other team to get results against them. Pedro is someone definitely worth considering. He got an assist in the last game, and obviously got a great number of points against West Brom. I think that's 20 from 2 games now. So yeah, and the bonuses, they definitely like Pedro in this game. He's definitely worth considering, and I think Fabregas, unfortunately, will become a very low percentage player because of the fact that people will be getting Hazard and maybe Pedro. I just think Fabregas now is slowly going to deteriorate in price, and rightly so. I think the way Mourinho deploys him, it's not too far from a defensive midfielder with some freedom. So, and also he becomes more offensive potentially in the game depending on the current result. So overall, Pedro definitely something for people to look at and worth considering in the teams. In terms of the strikers, obviously Costa, we've discussed this before in previous videos, but Falcao, although he scored, I don't think he's someone that's worth considering. You're almost gambling on him having to score maybe, in the games that he comes on. He has been a regular substitute, but I don't know. For his value and everything, I don't think that's a great signing at all. In terms of Palace, now they have done a lot of their transfers earlier in the season, and I don't think there's much to comment in terms of the players that I said that are worth considering. I still think Kabay is someone worth considering because he potentially has that penalty kick and set piece and everything. But Saka has emerged as a player at 5.5, decently cheap. But I think it's a very common mistake for people to get players and try to make up for last week. So just because a player got points the previous week doesn't mean if you get him in, he will get points this week. It's kind of like you're living in the world of last week. It's a brand new week. No player is guaranteed to get points, and if you get Saka, think like, okay, this player, I'm getting him because of the player, not because of last week's points. But either way, Saka is, from what I've seen, a player definitely worth considering. And with Balassi, obviously, his father passed away, but coming back in the first team, he almost scored against Chelsea. So these are the players that obviously I mentioned before that are worth considering. In terms of Everton, now they've kept Stones, which for me is like a signing for them. They obviously bought Funes Mori. How much he'll be involved right about now, I don't know. Maybe he's just someone they're going to kind of, train, like Gabriel from last season, kind of embed in the first team before they actually do sell Stones, in my opinion. In terms of midfield, Deulofeu has been playing, but let's see how he does. And then is obviously permanently signed for Everton, who I think is going to be definitely involved in the squad. So he's someone to look out for. But like I said, I don't particularly favour their fixtures. So it's up to you if you want to hit the gamble. Obviously, the key players being Barclays at the moment and Lukaku. Kone obviously is a great option, but Lukaku is also someone worth considering if you've got that extra money. And defensively, Coleman I think has got an assist, so he has been doing quite well on the offensive side so far. And in terms of bonuses, Jagielka has been collecting, and with his value gone down to 5.4, definitely someone worth considering. In terms of Leicester, I don't think there's much more to say, in terms of the new signings. Kant, I think, got a free bonus last game, so yeah, the new signing. So, but I think that's mainly due to his performance. But fantasy-wise, I would say stick with the players that have already been mentioned from this team at the moment. Mahrez and Brighton are performing to the points, along with Vardy, and Mahrez is now back. So let's, and obviously with his penalty taking duties, someone worth considering. Liverpool, they didn't do much at the end, and rightly so. They kept Lucas, and yeah, I think there's not really much more to add from the last few weeks of the transfer window. In terms of Man City, there is, and that's Kevin De Bruyne, the main one. And with De Bruyne valued at £10 million, it's audacious, but it's probably the right value because of the fact that he takes set pieces, he does a lot of stuff. But right about now, to get him in for the first game week, you're kind of taking a risk. Why not see how he performs for Man City, his role, make things much more clearer before you get him in? So that's something that I might do. If I'm gonna get De Bruyne on my team, I think I'm gonna watch his performances definitely for this game week at least, and then make a decision on him. But £10 million, it's practically the same starting value as Silva. So you got to think very carefully because he's definitely up there in terms of one of the most expensive midfielders, probably top four. Now, Man United obviously did complete the signing of Martial, and people keep saying they're putting for 80 million euros. No, that's rising to the figure. At the moment, it's around the £38 million mark. So let's not say that they bought him for this much. But either way, what I've seen from Martial, he's been decent, but he's got nowhere the experience. Tim Sherwood was talking about the reason why he's got French League One players over homegrown players in England because the fact they have more experience. Martial, on the other hand, is the opposite. He's got raw talent and being dubbed the next Henry. But we've seen loads of players being dubbed the next someone. Again, let's see how he does because I think they might change the formation a bit with Mata, Martial, and Depay. Maybe Mata will be deployed in the middle with Rooney at the front. So I think that's all of us we need to see because you never know. Van Gaal might just say, you know what, let me put Rooney in defensive midfield, and he might just play Martial as a fullback. So, like I said, do not kind of prejudge Van Gaal's decisions. In terms of the latest breaking news that I have, De Gea has signed a contract, and this is a big, big boost for Man United. They would have preferably liked the situation to be resolved 2-3 weeks before because he could have potentially played that Swansea game and maybe they could have won that game. But either way, what's happened has happened. Great news for Man United, but I still think they're short from being title challengers. But there's no doubt De Gea will save them points during the season. In terms of Newcastle, in terms of any last minute signings, I don't think they really recruited anyone else. No, I'm checking. Nope, they didn't. And again, similarly, the players that I recommended from before that are worth considering from this team. I mean, obviously Mitrovic has been getting himself sent off, so he's probably someone you want to kind of back off with. But his value is going to go down, and you can potentially, when he's back from suspension, get him at his cheapest price, and he might have calmed down a bit because he's seen clearly that when he gets sent off, how it affects the team. So maybe someone worth considering after, but right about now, it's best to view him at a distance. In terms of Norwich, there was managed to get Jarvis in. I believe that's on loan from West Ham, and it's going to be interesting. I've got McCartney here. It's going to be interesting to see what Norwich do in terms of the first team changes. I think again, it's just good to see how they change the first team because Norwich have actually not had a bad start to the season. You look at it, 4 points from 4. The Southampton game, they were 10 men down. So taking things in perspective, let's see how these new signings embed into the first team. With Southampton, I mean, they managed to keep all the players they wanted, and they bought Van Dijk, and I think he's a player definitely worth considering. He does get goals, does take free kicks. It's just a case of let's just see what he does for Southampton, and he's someone even I might worth considering for target in my team. So let's see how that goes. With Spurs, obviously they bought Son, and he's a player that can use both feet, so he's exceptional talent. It's going to be interesting to see now what the exact formation is, and obviously Eriksen being out, so who will basically make way for Eriksen when he comes back in. But right about now, we know which players are the standout players. And I think with people like me who have Kane, I think it's just a case of waiting for him to get points potentially. I still think his fixtures are quite decent-ish, and it might have to be a waiting game. In terms of Stoke, they've been doing some higher prolific signings in terms of players, from Barcelona, from this, from that, from Inter Milan. And similarly, again, the players that I recommend from the previous videos remain the same. Obviously, Shaqiri, someone I got in my team, and someone I think is potentially going to have a great season as well. So definitely worth considering. Van Ginkel, a bit too defensive minded to consider, in my opinion. So try to avoid him. So that's that. In terms of Sunderland, Lenz has started the game quite exceptionally. He's got 3 assists in a row and a goal, so he has been collecting points in each of the game weeks. And with Mvia, he's a bit more defensive minded, so he's probably not someone I would consider. He did score a free kick, and that's not any credible reason to purchase Mvia for your team. So obviously with Barouni, and we know Barouni had a great impact for Sunderland in my opinion. He did do decently well for them. So he's definitely worth considering. But likewise, I think Sunderland's defence has not started so well. But it's going to be interesting to see how Sunderland do. They might either going to take a backward step or take a forward step. But they generally seem to get involved in a relegation battle and seem to survive. And at the moment, it looks like the same story to me. Swansea have started the season fantastically, and the players which I recommended are the same ones. They've recalled Barrow on loan. They actually sent him on loan to Blackburn, and they're recording back. So I think this is probably because the squad size, it's not the biggest, and they don't have great depth. And obviously they sent Dyer on loan, so probably the reason why they record him. But overall, as you can see, a full healthy squad. The players, that are being recommended from even the previous videos, Ayew, Gomez, obviously, those are the 2 that stand out for me. So Gerson potentially, he's obviously a talented player. Montero, but Montero is one of those players who's very good. It's just that I don't think he'll be very good for fantasy. But let's see, because I think he's been doing great at the start of the season. In terms of Watford, they managed to recruit 3 new signings, but the same thing I'll say here is, even though they've got Ibardo, which some of you guys might know from FIFA, I still think the players that I've mentioned are going to be the players worth considering. I did mention Cathcart before, and Gomez is doing pretty well, but it's up to you if you want to take the risk on Watford. They've obviously started the season quite well defensively, and they didn't concede a lot of goals against Man City, but it's still your decision. West Brom, yeah, got Rondon in, and with Bejarino still at the team, I think Rondon is potentially a striker worth considering, because he does have some goals with him from Zenit days. And Bejarino, if he does come back, obviously he does take penalties, and he's similarly another player that I would recommend. But not for me. But if you're looking for a striker in that kind of price range, Bejarino is probably one of your best shots. And in terms of West Ham, like I said, Bejarino for that price tag. But Saka at the moment, he has been scoring here and there, and he is a bit of a goal threat as well. So Bejarino, Saka for that price range, if you're looking at that region, definitely players worth considering. They didn't do much more, West Ham, and that's no surprise. They have been buying, and there's not really much to comment. So that's my quick glance on the new recruitments from the recent last few weeks. And in terms of this game week, well, Everton-Chelsea is a great game from last season. It ended, I think it was 6-3 to Chelsea. So if we get any type of game similar to that'd be great. Stones will be starting, so got to see that. Arsenal-Stoke, I see an Arsenal win. Palace-Man City, I think this is a great game. Palace won this game last season. I'm just going to watch this game. I think with this, I'll just sit on the fence. With Norwich and Bournemouth, it's going to be another good game as well. I think tightly contested, and I see potentially maybe a draw in this, but Norwich could possibly win this because Bournemouth did seem rather weak in the second half against Leicester. Watford and Swansea, as great Watford have been defensively, I can see Swansea snatching this, but Watford might get a draw. West Brom and Southampton, this is going to be another tight game. Southampton have not been so great on the road, so I'll sit on the fence with this and see how they perform, but maybe Southampton have less games now with no UEFA Cup involvement, so that might just boost Southampton in terms of performance at the Hawthorns. Man United Liverpool, this is going to be a good game. And last season, even though Man United won 3-0, Liverpool could have easily won that game as well. They had a great number of chances, and the game made a lot of saves. And with the Gear signed the contract, potentially Man United could win this game. And obviously Rooney breaking the record as England's all-time record of goal scorer. Sunderland Spurs, I think actually Spurs will win this game. Leicester Villa, this will be a very tight game as well. I can see this possibly being a draw, but it could go either way. Maybe more of Leicester win, because I think Leicester, when they start games at home, they're quite strong. And lastly, West Ham Newcastle. I think, just because I'm gonna go on a pattern, I think West Ham are gonna lose this game because it's just not hard enough. But either way, so far I've made new signings. Not sure what I'll quite do. I've got 2 free transfers and £1 million in the bank. Might do so, I think. But let's see what I do. Not decided yet. Been a bit busy. But yeah, thanks for watching my video. So yeah, until then, see ya.